Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Rizzo, the commissioner of the WPF, or the World Pokemon Federation. In pursuit of of a better presence on YouTube this season, there's been a couple of guys who have very graciously helped the league put together various graphics packages and whatever. You see part of it in front of you right now with this very handsome logo, or layout rather, that Jace put together. So I'm gonna do my part. I'm gonna go ahead and put out some videos for you guys for the duration of the season, at least for WPF, unless my computer decides it's gonna take a shit at some point throughout the season. Then, we'll see what happens. But for now, this is my Season 7 draft that I want to talk to you guys about. So I got first overall, as a matter of fact. I did not make the order myself. You can't blame me for it. You gotta blame John. He is the guy who put me first overall, and like 4 other divisions, I took Dragapult first overall. I couldn't not take it because it was allowed. So you guys know, well, unless you're Leaf or one of the D division guys, Dragapult is undisputed #1 in the format at the moment. Now that Coco doesn't have Rising Voltage or Play Rough, Dragapult really is it's so good. And it's so good because it comes to every single game, all 8 weeks, or 10 weeks, or however long you have it for. It runs 1 or 2 sets, and it claims 2 to 3 mons per match, if you're using it correctly, right? So you can run it Banded, Specs, there's the Sub, Wisp, Hex, Disable variant, right? It even gets Thunderwave if for whatever reason, like, you want to run Thunderwave for like a fire type, right? You can't obviously burn it to get the additional Hex damage. You can run a Thunderwave. It's got silly coverage on the special side. It gets like Hydro Pump, Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, U-Turn, as if it needed anything else besides its crazy stat pool. But yeah, it's a fantastic mon, and I grabbed it first overall. So 17 picks later, I went and got Mega Medicham. And I'll go ahead and I'll throw up the second one too, just because I picked it up on the wheel, right? So completely barring the fact that my top 3 are weak to Fairy, I thought that they synergized really well, because the main thing coming for Dragapult are like Sucker Punches, Shadow Sneaks, knockoffs, whatever. And nothing really absorbs those better than Mandibuzz. Sort of similarly for Mega Medicham, it's not an actual, what am I trying to say? As a fighting type, it's not an actual knockoff or dark type switch in, because it's neutral due to its psychic typing, right? So to best support the most versatile, best mod in the format, and then one of the best breakers in the format in Mega Medicham, I wanted to grab something that was a defensive dark with momentum. So that's Mandibuzz, and then it started off my hazard control portion. This is my first defogger of the draft. So far I've got Mandibuzz sitting at 80 base speed, Medicham at 100, and Dragapult at 142, I think. Yeah, because their aura hits 143, so pretty good on speed tiers. I've got a defogger. I kind of died at any fairy type at the moment, but that's okay. We can patch those up in the next couple of rounds. So currently I really like it. I haven't used Medicham a lot in the past, although my most recent SBT draft featured a Mega Gardevoir with Dragapult, and they combined for something silly like 33 or 34 kills and like 7 deaths. I had a lot of fun, but Mega Medicham is good enough, I think. It's sort of lackluster to me in my mind that I've got 2 physical kind of oriented mons as my top 2, because that just means that I can't abuse my opponent's need to run physical defense on their walls as easily, but I'll patch those up in the subsequent picks a little bit, I think. So we'll see, but for the moment, I like where I'm sitting. So that was round 2 and round 3. Round 3 and 4, so I finally decided to pick up some Fairy Resists, right? So Arcanine, I've used it in the past with great success, more so the defensive sets than the offensive sets. However, it gets all the coverage you could possibly ask of a fire type, right? So like play rough, wild charge, obviously fire stab, things like bulldoze, close combat. It has utility options in will-o-wisp. It even gets morning sun for recovery, which is kind of weird for a fire type. Normally you see something like a Volcanion or like an Embor or something like that doesn't have recovery with fire types, but Arcanine getting Morning Sun really helps those defensive sets, especially because its bulk lets it run those defensive sets more often. I think it has like 90 base HP and then like 80 in each defensive stat. It's a crazy good fire type, and I love using it, especially with teleport for this team. It's going to be a great damage soak. Come in, take a hit, teleport out into one of the 3 prescribed heavy hitters that I've got so far. So you see Nidoqueen on the screen. Arcanine can be ran specially, but it doesn't love to be. But even uninvested like flamethrowers or blast burn or whatever will still do a chunk to whatever you need it to without really being invested. Because I think it has like 110 base attack and 100 special attack. So it's something. It's nothing to laugh at. However, Nidoqueen is really starting to sort of patch that up in relation to my special offense, right? So like Mandibuzz is never really going to be ran specially. Excuse me. It could though. It gets nasty plot, but it's not ideal, right? So Nidoqueen helps with that. Everybody knows that it's a great sheer force life orb user if you want to run coverage on it. It can be ran physical, special. It gets things like Sucker Punch and Throat Chop, and it doesn't get recovery, which is unfortunate, but it's not that big a deal because it is naturally bulkier than Nidoking. So in most matchups, it will go at least 1-to-1, but it also has hazard setting options. The defensive sets are also not crazy unrealistic with Nidoqueen. It's not actually that much bulkier than Nidoking, but it enjoys taking non-super effective hits and then can easily come in and deal back a good bit of damage. So Earth Power, it gets Scorching Sands access now, which is I think actually kind of cool because it means that you can run Poison Point sets more often. If for whatever reason you're not running Toxic Spikes or like Stealth Rocks, you could still get poisons off on like a fighting type, right? So like currently the team that I have doesn't like taking on fighting types that much because my flying type is neutral and my psychic type is kind of a resist, kind of not, because outside of Pure Power from Metacham, it's actually not that bulky. And then Dragapult obviously doesn't really want to be switching into anything a fighting type wants to go to short of Ice Punch or knockoff, heaven forbid. So that would be good for Nidoqueen to run Poison Point with like Scorching Sands, Sludge Bomb, really spread the status around, and then sort of in support of the larger team effort, debilitate the opposing Pokemon. So I don't have the best hazard situation, but my speed tiers are still doing a-okay, right? So I'm going from 76 with Nidoqueen to 80 with Mandibuzz, 95 now in Arcanine, 100 and 142. So pretty good as far as speed tiers are going, but I'll need to pick up some hazards here going forward. So let me see what my next 2 picks were. Araquanid, right? And then Magneton. Okay, so I looked at the team I had thus far with Pult, Metacham, Mandibuzz, Arcanine, and Nidoqueen and said, you know what? I don't do enough to pressure flying types because in my mind, I'm looking at my roster and current like Metacham doesn't love dealing with flying types. It can pressure with Fake Out, but that's still not optimal. And then because most flying types are going to be faster, my team just didn't love dealing with them, right? So I thought, all right, Araquanid is going to be my water type. I'll go ahead and get Sticky Web's access because I'm quickly determining, looking ahead in order the next couple of rounds, that this team isn't going to be as hazard-centric as I would like to be, and I'm not going to be the best on removal. I don't think I need removal on this team very much, although Mons like Medicham and Dragapult would certainly love Spike's access somewhere throughout the team just for chip. It's just not where where the cards are going to fall this season. So I thought I'm going to ensure that my opponents, or hopefully they should, be bringing removal to every match for me, because I can't think of a scarier situation in which Mega Medicham comes in with coverage moves and outspeeds your whole team because you didn't bring a removal for a sticky web. So I think that's a worthwhile strategy. Dragapult's already fast enough; it doesn't need that. I think the only thing that it would be outspeeding under sticky webs would be like Regieleki and Zeraora, so that's not terribly useful. But yeah, so I got some special defense to go along with the physical defense that Mandibuzz usually runs. So between Araquanid and Magneton, it sucks because I'm not I'm not usually a huge Magneton fan or a Magnezone fan for that fact. But right now I've got one other ground weakness and ground immunity, so it's not the worst. And then I'll go on to patch my ground weakness a little bit more. But I really felt like Magneton helped this draft by also ensuring that my opponents will have to prep for it. So like the steel type that they would be bringing versus like my fairies, or that would normally resist Dragapult, will have to take Magneton into consideration because of the magnet pull sets. So it's not quite as easy if there's like an opposing Heatran or something, right? Even though Heatran would outspeed Magneton normally, unless it wants to lock itself into using a Choice Scarf, it's likely going to run something like Focus Sash or what am I trying to say? Yeah, there's a whole item that I'm forgetting right now. But a Shed Shell, there we go. Yeah, no, so if they want to be able to avoid that damage for Magneton, it's like 120 or 125 base special attack, Flash Cannon, Steel Beam, even if it's necessary, or like Thunderbolt Discharge, whatever. Magnet Pull will make me hit you at least once. It's going to get some guaranteed damage off on those steel types and then die in service of the larger mission to the team. So it's not my greatest electric type or steel type, but it's okay for what I'm looking for on the team. And then I always love Araquanid. Shout out to Crazy from MLP. Stalled me out of quarterfinals last time I used it. But no, it's a great mon, very reliable. It's got a lot of special bulk, and I'm looking forward to using it on the team. I think it's got pretty good synergy so far. Water Absorb packs up with Nidoqueen and Arcanine obviously being weak to water, and then it's a ground resist, but its physical defense isn't the greatest, but a resist is a resist, and that's fine. With all of the bug types running around in sort of mid to low tier, there are very, very few of them that aren't neutral to ground, because things like Shelmet, not Shelmet, like Escavalier. Escavalier is a great steel type pickup in the low point tier, but it's a bug steel, so it's actually not. It's a bug that's not resistant to fighting or ground, and it's not a steel that is what am I trying to say? Yeah, I don't know. It's quad weak to fire, and it's like 20 base speed. So I chose to go the Magneton route over that. And then for my next two picks, I thought, all right, well, I did a pretty good job with my resist, so let me start to patch up my hazard situation. And then coincidentally, it also really sort of solidified my speed tiers, because I went from I think Araquanid is like 43, 70 on Magneton, to 76, 95, or 80, whatever, right? So there was that big gap between 100 at Medicham and 142 at Dragapult. So I picked up Whimsicott and Lycanroc Dusk for 110 and 116. It gave me a Stealth Rocker and a Defogger, putting my grand total up to, I think, 2 and 2 so far, which is not ideal, but it's something. And then gave me some pretty good speed tiers at 110 and 116. Functionally, I guess you could call Whimsicott faster than that, depending on what it's doing, just because Prankster is a thing. But I really enjoyed what I thought they brought to the table. So in further light of just fucking opposing electric or flying types as much as I could. Lycanroc Dusk, obviously one of the premier users of Accelerock. I think one of two or three if you count Smeargle. But super good at doing that. It sets Stealth Rocks, runs Focus Sash, Endeavor, Swords Dance with coverage. It's got all kinds of buttons, and it's really fun mon. At this point in the draft, my team is feeling more offensive, I think, than I am used to, without a lot of setup, which is interesting. But I like it. It's a little different for me, but I think I'm going to enjoy using the team so far this season because of the sort of support options I've got so far, right? So Araquanid does cool support things, as well as Whimsicott. Prankster is a very interesting ability because it can do very, very annoying things, where it gets like Prankster Charm and Substitute, Toxics, Memento even, to get stuff like Dragapult or Mega Medicham in easier. It can set Tailwind like right before it dies. It gets all sorts of stuff that would help the team with its death, which is fine. So far I've got a fairly unconventional sort of Fairy Dragon Steel core, but I think they work well together to highlight what Dragapult wants to do in any given match. And that should be, I think, the main focus of the team, because it was obviously the most expensive pick. It was 19 points in a budget of 115. What is that? Something like, I don't know. I'm not going to do the math because I suck at it. But it's a pretty good pick, and I'm really looking forward to using it. But yeah, I guess that's really it there. So I think at this point the only types I'm really missing are like normal and ice type. I've got pretty good synergy pretty much everywhere else in the draft. So with my last two picks, I picked up Wigglytuff and Avalugg. So my thought at the end of round 9 was I've already got 6 or 7 very good Pokemon that I can reliably bring every week. I really only needed to fill the last 2 slots with very niche sort of needs, right? So the thought was, on a Dragapult Medicham team, I could have absolutely no shortage of Ghost Resists, or Ghost Immunities rather, and a Dragon Immunity. So I grabbed another Fairy in Wigglytuff, doubling as a normal type Ghost Immunity, but it also gets very, very good support options, right? So it gets Baton Pass and Wish for sort of negative momentum, but not really, just because of the nature of how slow it is. 40 base speed means that it's often getting up a Wish and then being second to move, Baton passing that into something else. It gets actually pretty good coverage options as well as competitive. So if for whatever reason my opponents want to set Sticky Web against me, you can rest assured I'm going to be switching in my Wigglytuff with coverage to get that free +2 special attack. It gets Heal Bell, and is generally a nice little glue piece to the team. It's not going to be getting a bunch of kills, but it should be setting up the other members of the team for success. And then my last guy there, Avalugg, he is sort of the antecedent to Araquanid, where Araquanid is a very bulky on the special side, while Avalugg is sort of the opposite. It's very physically bulky, and with the addition of like heavy duty boots and getting rapid spin, it's fantastic hazard control in certain games. So Mandibuzz and Whimsicott won't be necessarily pigeonholed into running removal all the time, and it also wouldn't be removing the webs I would be setting if I chose to set them. So I don't really anticipate Avalugg coming to very many games, but I think it will also be a cool secondary option when building for the slew of very offensive physical dragons, right? So if a Dragonite or Salamence on the other team really wants to set up Dragon Dances to be faster than Dragapult, they can do that, but they're gonna have to sacrifice a move slot to like flamethrower or something, because otherwise they're just not gonna get through Fizdef Avalugg. It's something stupid like 184 defense, and Avalanche is moving. No, Avalanche is a move, I think, where it does double damage if you take damage first, which Avalugg always would in those scenarios. So it would be like 120 base power physical ice move. And those typically, dragons really don't like taking those sort of hits. So it's definitely got a niche part on the team, but it does have a spot on the team itself. So all in all, a very different team than I've drafted in the past with Dragapult. This is my second time using it, I think, and I'm hoping it's going to be as fun as the first time I saw it. So look out for my first match, probably coming on Monday or Tuesday with Insanity Fang. It's going to be a good season, and I hope you guys enjoy. So I'll see you later for the team builder, I guess. All right, see you guys.